Yeah, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna look at the ignition switch wiring. Go from the connector, and you'll find all these colored wires. There's a harness on the ignition cylinder itself, but use the wires that are up underneath the dash that it plugs into. Just match them up. But coming off of the ignition cylinder, you're gonna have this red and white wire. So on the vehicle side, the red and white wire is going to be it's going to be coming from your battery. Pretty sure it comes through the power junction box, but just in case, put that 20 amp breaker in there to prevent anything catastrophic from happening to the car or any of your switches. So remember that red and white is your power going to your switchboard. Um, First off, you're going to have that ignition switch, the one with the cover. On one side of it, route your power so that you have power going to it. On the other side, you're going to use the black and white wire. The black and white wire is it's what's going to turn on your ignition coils and your fuel system. I'm pretty sure. Um, the black and yellow and black and green wires, you're going to tie those two together and wire them on one side of the start button. On the other, make the switch power. So you're gonna have two wires on the ignition, coming off of the other side of the ignition switch. So when you turn the ignition switch on, you'll have power going to the ignition, and you'll have power going to the switch. And then on the other side of the switch, you're gonna have the black and yellow and the black and green, and those two wires together are gonna actually turn your starter over. Um, so also, bridging power over from the power side of the ignition switch is where you're going to route all the power to the rest of the auxiliary switches. One of those is going to be that blue wire that comes off. That's the last wire, the blue one, coming off of the ignition cylinder, and that's going to turn on all of your accessory components and stuff. So I'm going to try and go over it once more and try to be as clear as I possibly can. Um, Power coming in from the red and white wire, going to one side of the covered ignition wire, and then that bridges over to power the rest of the components. On the other side, the switch side of the covered ignition wire, you're going to have the black and white wire to turn on your ignition components, and then you're going to bridge it over to one side of your push button for your starter. Then on the other side of the push button for when you toggle it, you're gonna have those two wires, the black and yellow and the black and green wires. And then your main source of power bridges from the power side, not the switch side. So that way you can just turn it on whenever you want. Like if you want to just sit there, listen to your radio, and have the car off, you bridge that over the toggle switch for the starter, and wire in the blue wire for your accessory components, and then you'll have the rest of the auxiliaries for the eventual fuel pump, water pump, or e-fan, what have you. Text me if you're unclear about any of this, man.